Good morning, everyone. I'm going to give it a minute just to let some folks come in and we'll get started. It's 9 a.m. on the dot, so let's give it till 9:01. Hope we have an excited crowd today because we're going to learn a lot of good stuff. Oh, good. I see we have 9 people on so far. Awesome. So we do have a lot to cover. I don't want to wait too much longer because I think it's going to be a jam-packed hour. So I will start now. I want to say good morning again and welcome everyone. Welcome Bergen County businesses. I'm so glad that you are on here today for this webinar on exporting. Exporting is a topic that I think some people feel is not very possible. And I think after today, you're going to feel like it definitely is. And you're going to feel really confident because you're going to have a team with you in Sophie and Bill and Lucretia and myself that are going to help anything and everything that has ever set you back from doing so. So I want to introduce myself. My name is Joanne Simaluka. I'm here with Lucretia Jean from the Bergen County Division of Economic Development. And we're excited to welcome you to our Ready, Set, Go Global webinar with our close colleagues, Sophie Werner and Bill Spear from the New Jersey Business Action Center, who you'll learn about as well. Today is an opportunity to learn how to increase your sales through exporting, and I hope that that's how you got here. It piqued your interest because, again, Sophie and Bill are experts in this. They speak fluent export. They could help you develop your export plan, help you look into the markets you want to get into, help you with international market data. There's no better anyone that can help you do this. So without further ado, I want to pass it over now to Bill Spear from the New Jersey Business Action Center, and he's going to take you through this very informative webinar, and I'll be back later.
Hey, Joanne, thank you so much. I do appreciate that very warm welcome. As everybody, as Joanne had indicated, we're talking today about exports. But I want to take one quick step away and begin to talk about what we're really going to discuss today, and that is solutions. You know, Joanne talked about the idea of something being daunting, perhaps bigger than what might be possible. We're going to throw that out the window right now. We're going to come at it from the fact that you have many, many solution providers here on this call today, starting at the very, very top with Joanne and Lucretia, who are part of Bergen County Economic Development. We're going to go into that a little bit more, but just know this, as Joanne said, we are here to provide a range of solutions and to perhaps begin changing people's minds on the dauntingness or the bigness of exporting. And with me today is Sophie Werner. Sophie is going to have probably the biggest chunk within the context of the webinar. Sophie, you want to come on in and we'll begin moving things forward.
Good morning, all. Thank you so much, Joanne. Thank you, Lucretia, and thank you, Bill. It is a pleasure to be here and speak with you all about exports. We are going to get started with a brief welcome survey. You should see a welcome survey pop up on your screen now. There are 3 quick questions. One is asking you to best describe your business by industry. And the second question is asking whether you have exported, otherwise sold a product or service to a buyer outside of the U.S. and its territories. And the third question asks about whether you're actively marketing your company internationally. So I see some answers coming in. I'm going to give it a couple more moments, but so far I see that we have some construction companies here today, service-based companies, as well as companies that have exported, but the majority of the folks on the call that are responding to the survey have not exported previously, and it looks like unanimously there's not an active export marketing focus. So that's really an exciting topic that we'll address today, and hopefully we can assist you all with the getting some of these no's to yeses. So this is great. Thank you, everyone.
Sophie, if I could jump in one sec.
Sure.
Just wanted to let you know your headset is a little bit choppy, as someone just put in the chat.
Okay. Are you able to hear me a little bit better?
If that's a little better.
Okay. All right. So that is it for the poll. Okay, so that's not better. Let's see. Are
Yeah.
you? How about now?
Talk a little bit more.
All right. So thank you everyone again for responding to the poll. It looks like we've got the vast majority of the folks that are on the call. They were able to respond today.
Okay. One more thing, Sophie. I'm so
Sure.
sorry to interrupt you again. It's still echoing a little bit, so I think
Okay.
some folks may have a little bit of a hard time hearing.
Okay. I'm gonna resolve my mic issues. I'm gonna pass it back to Bill to discuss the Business Action Center, and I will rejoin with a better mic then.
Sophie,
Great.
thank you so much. I appreciate that. And as Sophie said, we're going to move forward. And what our very next slide is going to be a little bit about the Business Action Center. And it is to be part of the mission and the vision are there. It is to be part of both an economically diverse economy, that is the state of New Jersey, and to be a resource inside of that same economy. And also, so everybody knows, I'm going to be a little bit brisk on going through these slides. Everybody will have access to the slides afterwards, where there might be a little bit more time for a more leisurely reading of that. But again, we've got some other points that we want to get to on this particular day. This is where the Business Action Center is. We live within those three C's: connect, communicate, collaborate. BAC is part of the Department of State, and it gives us a unique perspective to work with companies throughout the state. Many people of our team, some of you may know, Steve Milgram is in there. I think Greg Larkin's in there as well. They actually allow me to come into this picture, oddly enough. But this is the Business Action Center team that works with companies. These are the 5 primary operating units of the BAC. The Office of Business Advocacy, that's Mr. Milgram and his group. Office of Export Promotion, that's really where we're going to spend our time today. Small business, many people on the call may have worked with Don Newman in the past or are currently working with him on a topic. State planning, that's a little bit more focused on municipalities that are in the act of putting together and having passed a state plan first time in 20 plus years. And relatively new to the Business Action Center is the Cannabis Trading Academy. And what that is tasked with doing is developing an industry around the cannabis that is become legal here in the state of New Jersey. And it is, if you can imagine a business action center for a specific industry, that's a fair starting point. There also is some training involved as well, but the BAC and the Cannabis Training Academy are serving that particular industry. And this is now really where we're going to start our solutions conversation. And right there on the screen, we talked about Joanne and her organization. You know, the folks that are coming us today, most likely I am expecting have worked with Joanne, and they've had an opportunity to experience what it means to receive the benefit of the solutions that that organization provides. And we try to do the same thing. You know, we were talking just prior to the call. This office, the Office of Export Promotion, really is in existence to support the solutions that Joanne and Lucretia are providing there in Bergen County. And our particular scope is to help those companies begin looking at and exploring international trade, but it is a direct pass through. I mean, we talked with Joanne many, many times. We're familiar with what's going on there and what is happening here. And we try to make ourselves an integral part of, again, that word solutions. And as we go through, Sophie's going to get to this in a bit. There are other state level solutions, there are federal solutions, and there is also data that's coming in that represents international solutions. And that is going to be key to what the the development of an export plan or an export mindset is. Here's how you can get in touch with the BAC. And I mentioned Don Newman a moment ago. I staffed for him for a while, and if he were on this call, he'd absolutely be standing up and down and saying, remember to say 1-800-Jersey-7. If you forget everything Sophie and I talk about, if you forget the slides, misplace those, etc., 1-800-Jersey-7. Our colleagues are over there. They staff that call line. They also staff a chat line over there as well. They will get you connected back with this office, with any of us individually, with the information, etc. 1-800-Jersey-7. Our social handles are there, free of charge. There's no fee to engage us. And on top of that, one of our other big points is what companies talk with, not just the Office of Export Promotion, but within the BAC, that's their business and nobody else's business. And that's going to be that confidentiality bullet point that you see right there. And going forward now, we're going to talk about where Sophie and myself and our colleagues Jean Chang and Marielle Wolf work and what we do. That's the Office of Export Promotion. And all of that can also be summed up on or boiled down to one fairly elegant statement. We help New Jersey companies sell goods and services around the world concurrent with increasing jobs here in New Jersey. We have a fair number of tools available to us. You see many of them on that slide, and Joanne talked about it a moment ago: market analysis, market research, advocacy. If you've got a freight shipment sitting in a container halfway around the world, we can lean in and provide advocacy on that. That foreign trade zone is a little bit more of a specialized activity. Nonetheless, it does work in the realm of promoting exports and jobs here in the state of New Jersey. The state of New Jersey is the grantee of Foreign Trade Zone 44 in Mount Olive. Again, if this is something that might be piquing folks' interest, we can turn that into a topic point going forward. And here we are now, today's main event, Bergen County Ready, Set, Go Global. And this is where I think I want to bring Sophie Werner back into the conversation to help or take over the lead on the business case for exporting. Sophie, are you back out there?
Yes, I am. I reconnected my microphone. Hopefully the audio is now better.
It
I'm seeing
is.
some nodding. Okay, wonderful.
It is. And so, Sophie, allow me to get out of your way. And why don't you begin talking to, what's right there on the screen?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bill. And although today's webinar is geared towards new to export companies, existing exporters will find resources shared relevant for both new and expanding exporters. And first of all, if you did not have a good reason for being here, we're going to start by giving you a couple on this slide via the business case for exporting. The topic of today is, of course, exporting your goods and services. And you may ask, why should I explore this as a growth opportunity? Number one, exporting can help you increase sales by tapping into over 95% of global consumers that reside outside of the United States, and more importantly, hold 2/3 of global buying power. Number two, exporting can help your company handle U.S. market fluctuations by offsetting your domestic market with additional foreign markets. Number three, exporting can increase the valuation of your business whether or not you're looking to sell. And then finally, exporting can allow you to maximize the production, sales, and administrative systems you've already invested. Slide, please. Next slide, please. Oh, okay. Sorry, I was, it looks like there was a delay on my end. So if we can go back one to the agenda. So this is our agenda for today. We are going to briefly discuss the importance of a self-assessment, the importance of management commitment to this new strategy for growing your business. We're going to look at the landscape in terms of trade barriers and trade opportunities that exist in the world today and into the future, and how to plan for those and prepare for those. And then we'll discuss the process of export planning and the process of market research, and we'll give you several tools with which you can conduct market research, and we can also assist you with that process. And for a manufacturing case study, we will be conducting a business international marketing um, international marketing um, of a frozen food manufacturer. For the purposes of today's presentation, we have created this fictitious entity, Garfield Frozen Lasagna, for which we will be conducting this research. And then we'll wrap up with some Q&A and discuss next steps. Next slide, please. So we invite a conversation with companies to support their export endeavors, especially in creating an export plan, which we'll discuss today. The export readiness self-assessment will review the company's readiness of areas such as their current success in domestic markets, production capacity, ability to fulfill additional orders, and of course, the overall ability to capitalize on the opportunities that are afforded through additional sales. So this will be something that will be sent in a follow-up email. There will be a link to the self-readiness, to the export readiness self-assessment, and we encourage you to engage with this tool, and we're happy to discuss it with you as well. Next slide. And for the management commitment section, I will pass it back to my manager, William Spear. Thank you.
Sophie, thank you so much. One of the keys to success is the commitment from the very, very top reaches of the organization to put in place all the different processes. Again, we'll use the word solutions for any company to begin or even expand its journey. Joanne and I were talking before we started today, and just by merely saying, oh, I want to export does not mean there's going to be contract sales that materialize in your email box, the next morning. So you have to have, as a standard rule, the top-down support. It's a process which requires some time. It's a process that requires understanding or acquiring a comfort level of talking about foreign markets, whatever the markets are. And it also requires an understanding and comfort level of what it means to operate in those markets. Now, I've just said a lot of things right there. The one thing that I did not say is money. You could make the argument that time is money. Okay, I'll concede that point. But I'm not talking about getting into an airplane and flying in country. Really what we're talking about is sweat equity. And a lot of that is done by the companies itself, but a lot of that starts through conversations with Sophie, myself, Marielle, or Jean Chang. Also starts with Joanne and her folks to begin understanding what resources the company has internally right now, what it wishes to do in foreign markets, and how much time it is prepared to invest in that. Again, no reference to money there. All those things are important. And then going beyond your management and your leadership team is the strongly encouraged I'll say need, particularly when we talk with folks like bankers or your supply chain, to let them know what your firm is about to do in terms of explore and hopefully enter into a new market. That commitment has to be spoken all up and down the organizational chain and has to be somewhat consistent across all parts of the organization as well. That commitment will carry the firm not only as it goes through this for the first time or the second time, but also foreign markets have their own, and those will be required. And then we're also going to talk on trade barriers and trade opportunities. Trade barriers are just that. It is anything that might get in the way of moving your good or service, either physically or contractually or culturally or financially, that might get in the way of you delivering that good or service to your buyer in whatever country you're targeting. And sometimes those things are big. Sometimes those things are in the news 24 hours a day. I'm sure everybody on this call has learned the word tariff and has seen that. That's a federal action that's taken by a federal government against another central government. And there are different types of tariffs. We're going to get into that in a moment. Just because a country has a tariff imposed upon it doesn't mean that all goods necessarily are part of that tariff. Also, it is a word to begin to understand. It is not a word to stop moving forward on, particularly if you're not really exporting right now at this moment. The time is to begin now, because you don't have any pressing financial needs. So a tariff is just one more. Imagine a chessboard, and you're trying to strategically move across the board. A tariff is just one more piece on the board to be understood, navigated, and moved around. They're also very, very fluid, and I think everybody's maybe aware that there's a case before the Supreme Court. So the nature of the tariffs can change also, and they can change quickly. There is also this category of activities called a non-tariff trade barrier, and that is also exactly what it says. You don't have to, a country does not necessarily have to impose a tariff or erect a tariff to discourage companies from other countries to do business there. If there is excessive paperwork, if there's excessive regulation for foreign firms, if there is excessive fees or licensings that a foreign company must adhere to in order to enter a market, that effectively is a tariff. And technically that is against international law. It's just the signatories to the World Trade Organization have also, which is a third party which involves trade amongst all the countries. But there is a common willingness to reduce not only tariffs, but these non-tariff trade barriers. We were just talking with a company the other day who was trying to do business outside the United States, and it was treated very poorly, and their services were actually discouraged because, in this case, they were from America. That's a non-tariff trade barrier, and theoretically, that should not be allowed in international trade. Again, we can turn that into a different topic at a later time. Then there are things that actually enhance trade, and that is when groups of companies get together and give each other preferential treatment. The United States, the North American Free Trade uh, Treaty amongst Canada, Mexico, and the United States, renamed several times. There are supposed to be preferences or reduced tariffs that go along with that. Now, those things have been brought into play recently, but the whole part of that is to develop regional economies. If you look at Europe, you'll see there's very, very little country to country boundaries that reduce or cause friction. Those are called, those are free trade agreements, but they provide opportunities for the partners to more seamlessly or frictionless move goods and services amongst themselves. And again, here are some examples: non-tariff barriers, tariff barriers. One thing to keep in mind too, and I don't believe I spoke about it a moment ago, tariffs also come with this related entity called quotas. So there are moments in which a tariff may be set aside for the first, let's make up a quantity, for the first 2 metric, I don't know, 2 metric tons of a particular product. And then after that quota is met, the tariff then goes back. So there's a lot of different pieces on this. One thing I would say though, don't let this cause you to not go forward. it's just, as I said a moment ago, it's just one more piece on the chessboard to be understood and navigated. And this office can be part of that process. Trade opportunities, one more time. These are pretty standard in the realm of trade. Again, this will be included within the slide deck as it goes around. And then coming back to here. Now, this is where Sophie's going to rejoin us and begin talking about how companies can put in place and kind of refined their energies and their focus to build an export plan to allow them to anticipate and look at things they can look at, but also begin building for to begin executing their plan. So, Sophie, I'm going to hand it right back to you.
Thank you, Bill. So there are several items to consider when creating your export plan, and these items will likely look similar to you because I'm sure all of the founders here have created a business plan and likely have had to use that business plan and update it because we know that things do not remain constant. You need to make sure that it's updated, and especially to Bill's point about the environment of trade being like a chessboard, you need to know what moves are being made and what is going to make sense for you to move your game forward. So these items should look pretty similar to you. And as you know, just like a business plan, your export plan is going to be a living, breathing document and can't, go on the shelf and collect dust. You want it to be relevant to what you are looking to do currently. So when you're looking at global markets, you'll need to adapt your product or service to that local market. So this means not just understanding your customers and the culture as a whole, but the regulatory environment in which you're selling. And okay, thank you, Dean. We will follow up with you regarding your inquiry. Thank you. You will need to identify which products or service you intend to export. So for each product that you wish to export, there is going to be a specific code, a 10-digit code, which is your Schedule B number. And that is going to give you access to a lot of data that we're going to explore later with some tools. But your Schedule B number is going to classify each commodity. So whether the commodity is, as was mentioned in the chat, a medical device, or whether it is a frozen food product or a apparel item, these are all going to have unique commodity codes. And so you're going to want to understand how your product or service is viewed in the international trade space. For pricing considerations, we want to, you know, encourage folks to look at the landed costs, which is going to be all of the different costs associated with getting your product to your consumer or your buyer. So, meaning the purchase price, shipping fee, customs duties, taxes, and any other associated costs. And when you are fulfilling orders from global buyers, you might need additional financing to increase that production capacity. So, thinking through that and considering perhaps some solutions such as the U.S. Small Business Administration's Office of Manufacturing and Trade, their financial programs. They have both lines of credit and term loans to support U.S. exporters in not only their export sales, but also um, in their domestic sales. So, for example, the Working Capital Pilot Program allows for one line for domestic and export sales up to 5 million, and that is able to be used for both that domestic and export sales. So that's an example of something that can assist in increasing your financial and thus production capacity. The next slide, please. So the export planning process, the first step is going to be research, and we highly recommend that you keep your focus lasered in on about 1 to 3 markets. So today we are going to show you a lot of different tools, a lot of different market intelligence resources. Do yourself a favor and try to limit your search after this webinar to 3 potentially viable markets. And even if you start out with one, that's great as well, but we encourage you to keep your focus sharp. Um, And as mentioned, the aspects of your export plan are going to look similar to your business plan because in a way, this is creating a completely new channel for your business. This is not a accessory. This is not a simple add-on, but rather this is going to expand your business in a new direction, and is both exciting and challenging. And that is, why we're here to support. And we encourage you to review the markets that you've chosen with your management team, discuss and see, okay, do these make the most sense even for, this is not any financial investment yet, but this is just sweat equity. Which ones are going to make the most sense to dedicate that research time to, which is of course a valuable asset to you and your firm. Next slide, please. Here is a sample export plan outline. As Bill mentioned, everyone will receive the copy of the slides. We just want to highlight a couple items from each portion. So, we cannot be overstated or stated enough that management needs to be on the same page because this is a long-term commitment. Within the background analysis, you want to understand, from from all of the different for each product that you're looking to export and for each service that you're looking to export, you want to understand your obligations. So that may be in the form of an export license. This is going to depend on the type and use of your product as well as the end user. So about 95% of products don't need licenses, but that doesn't get you off the hook for conducting due diligence on your customer for export control compliance. So I want to highlight that, which is also within the background analysis. So it's all about knowing your customer and knowing your customer's customer. And there is a great resource on the Bureau of Industry and Security, which is within the U.S. Department of Commerce, and they have a consolidated commerce control list in which you can look through all of the different sources to look up prospective buyers if you want to basically vet them, which is a great tool, especially for small companies that might not be looking to engage, additional services outside of the company for this vetting process. Another item that we want to highlight is that U.S. intellectual property protection does not afford any protection abroad, and that the intellectual property environment in each market of interest will vary, and that depends. That will impact the lifespans of the protection, and there is going to be a fee for each overseas IP right that you apply for. For the marketing component, want to highlight that you have options as an exporter. So you can go down the direct method path, which is going to be a bit more of the onus on you. But there's also options such as distributors or utilizing e-commerce platforms in which you can promote your products or services and tap into existing networks that are already getting in front of your export buyers. And then for action steps, again, keep your list of primary target countries short. Next slide. As with your business plan, as it contains the narrative and financial sections, you want your export plan to contain the budget and all of the projected financial statements and projected costs. So looking at what are the costs going to be that you will specifically dedicate to attracting foreign buyers, brokers, and distributors. And then the implementation schedule, make sure that you are giving yourself specific milestones as it's impossible to accurately track progress without those. And then finally, in the background data on your target markets, it's really important to be aware of the competitive environment in your markets of interest, not only from domestic competition, but from other companies that are importing into that market. Next slide, please. And I do see the question. I will send the link to that tool during our Q&A. Thank you, Marisa. We are going to start by showing some international market research tools for product-based businesses. So first, I know we mentioned the Schedule B commodity code. This is going to be a really important 10-digit code that you're all going to want to know for your respective products. And if you are selling more than one specific type of product, you will have more than one 10-digit code. So the Schedule B commodity codes are U.S. specific classification codes for exporting goods from the United States, and it's administered by the U.S. Census Bureau. And as mentioned, this is going to be a 10-digit code. We'll look at an example of one later, but it is used by the U.S. Census Bureau for export monitoring, and it's built upon a 6-digit HS or harmonized system code, which is used around the world by countries and is administered by the World Customs Organization. So that US-based code, it includes the globally recognized commodity code as well. So it's really valuable. We're going to look at the Global Market Finder, in which you can select your specific Schedule B 10-digit code and see data, both, on the average, the total sales over time, as well as locations of U.S. exports into foreign markets. And then finally, we will be going over to the Department of Commerce's International Trade Administration's country commercial guides, which are the, I think, best first step for market intelligence for US firms. Next slide, please. For service-based businesses, we want to highlight that A, services are exportable, and B, they are quite, there's quite a trade surplus on service in the US, so that we're exceeding at and want to continue to grow. Just to highlight a couple of key information about U.S. service exports. The top markets for U.S. service exports include the UK, Canada, Ireland, Switzerland, Mexico, and Japan. And the top services categories include financial services, licensing, telecommunications, and consulting, and some great resources for conducting research on your service-based business and where those exports are going to be on the Bureau of Economic Analysis's interactive data table, and then additionally the market intelligence from the country commercial guides. And we'll go through each one of these tools now. Next slide, please. First, we're going to walk through the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, their interactive data application. So this is the home page that you will arrive at when you go to their iTable application. I highly recommend that you watch this video on navigating iTables. You will be able to gather a lot more information and really customize your search to better fit your goals. Next slide, please. And we're just going to go through these next few slides. I'm just navigating on how to access the international services data. So over here on the left-hand side, there's international data within which there is international services. Next slide, please. Next slide. And next slide. And then from here, you can select the table specifically. So again, table 2.2, for example, includes the trade and services by type of service. So for example, telecommunications, and by country or affiliation, such as Japan. Next slide, please. Now we're going to look at a manufacturing case study. We are looking at a frozen food manufacturer. And we are going to start by looking at what is the specific commodity code, what is that 10-digit code that's going to help us unlock this data. So we're going to start with the U.S. Census Bureau's website to go on their Schedule B search engine. There's also an option to go through the Schedule B book or the Schedule B publication. Next slide, please. I like to show the Schedule B book because it shows how it is organized, and this might be a way that you look to refine your and to better understand the classification process. But what's really helpful is the Schedule B search engine, which is what we're going to use today. Next slide. All right, so we are looking to classify lasagna, and specifically frozen lasagna. But for now, I just put in the keyword lasagna, click to classify, and the first question, um, of course, they say, here's what we know about your lasagna, plural. And then I'm going to select that this is stuffed lasagna. Next slide. From there, you'll see a breakdown of assumed and known characteristics, and this is going to be whether this is a part of um, a, an OEM, or whether this is a washer for a specific machine. No matter what, they're going to break down the type, the form, the construction, the materials, to a point where you're going to, you know, be able to really specify what is this product, what is it made out of, and how is it formed. Next slide, please. So from here, we're starting to see the first Schedule B number that appears, which is canned stuffed pasta, the 91902200020. But that's not exactly on point. We are looking for frozen lasagna or frozen stuffed pasta. Um, so there's a other button, so we're going to click that. Next slide. From there, we are going to see a more specific and more accurate Schedule B commodity code that we will then use. The 1902-200040 is what we are going to then bring and use in the Global Market Finder. Next slide, please. And just to highlight the difference, or the relationship between the US Schedule B number and the Harmonized System Code, the first 6 digits of the US Schedule B number contain the Harmonized System Code. So again, this is going to help not only for US data, but also it is used around the world as it is administered by the World Customs Organization. And then I took a screenshot of the publication, which shows all of the different iterations. So if, let's say, you're a pasta manufacturer, it might be more helpful to look at the publication or the book view rather than the search engine. But I wanted to just show both options. Next slide. Here is the Global Market Finder, which is also powered by the US Census Bureau data. So at the top middle, you'll see it says choose a commodity code, and you'll have to go in and select your specific code. So you'll have to go in and run different searches for each specific commodity. Next slide, please. Next slide. So we've selected our US exports of pasta stuffed frozen, which would translate to frozen lasagna based on the description. And then we are seeing already on this map view top 5 countries by value. And then we can also look at a table view, as well as methods of transportation, unit price, and the data over time. Next slide. Here is the table view sorted by the highest um, um, number of exports. So this is in thousands of dollars. So our top 2 markets rather, are in our neighboring countries that are in the USMCA. And as Bill mentioned, that is a opportunity for companies to tap into an existing trade facilitation that can help companies um, tap into an existing um, mechanism by which they can sell their products. So we are going to look at an example from Mexico. Next slide, please. Um, this is the homepage of the Country Commercial Guide, so you can select almost any market that we are friendly with and looking to trade with. Next slide. Then from here, the Canada Commercial Guide, Country Commercial Guide has information. Again, this is collected by the U.S. Embassies worldwide, by the Commerce Department, State Department, and other U.S. agencies. Next slide, please. And then this is highlighting information about the USMCA when it entered into force, and different tools such as the FTA tariff tool and the FTA resource toolbox that can help you see if your product, in this case, frozen lasagna, would qualify under the free trade agreement. And of course, you can do the same for Mexico. Next slide. All right, so I know we had several questions, so we want to absolutely leave time for some Q&A. I want to invite Bill back in. I want to invite Joanne and Lucretia back on, and we are going to start by addressing the questions that are already in the chat. And I believe the first question, yes, so it looks like that person had to leave for another call, so we will follow up with him separately. But excuse me, it looks like Marisa has a question on the name of the tool mentioned for vetting buyers. And then secondary question, where would employee training, leadership, and professional development fall under for our research? So I am going to pull up the tool for vetting prospective buyers. And Bill, do you want to address?
I had a question. Yeah. Marisa, on your second question, are the leadership and professional development services, is that something your firm is looking to export, or is it something you're looking to acquire to further enhance the international trade capacity of the management, leadership, and everybody in your firm? Because it'll be two different questions. It'll be two different answers. I'm sorry. On the first answer, or the first question, a service, and Sophie said this a couple of times during her part of the presentation, services are exportable, and they typically fall under, I believe the broad category is business and professional developments. Actually, strike that. Business and professional services. And then there's a couple of trees underneath that we can go down to kind of refine that just a little bit. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Let's see if I can find you. Give me one moment. Marisa, I think your mic is on.
Hi, can you hear
Oh,
me?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know that I was able to talk. Yeah, we were looking to basically export our training and coaching programs, and we have a variety of other things like assessments for employees, export internationally.
What I'd like to do, again, let's go back to the point that Sophie made very early on. Services are no different than products. I've got my coffee cup with me, so I could clearly export the cup or the contents of that. Services are the same thing. The difference between the two is that services data lags by a year behind the physical goods. And also physical goods, Sophie showed that catalog or that book approach. There's no similar refinement in terms of data. Now, having said that, what that merely means is a conversation out loud, between you and this office, to begin to look at the data will show where there's going to be most likely some applicability for your firm. And I'm going to refer back to what Sophie said a moment, and we extend the invitation for that conversation, by the way. What I would say is a repeating of what Sophie said. If there is a country or two or three that you'd like to explore, then make that a data point. And when we talk, let's begin to develop some plans around how the firm can begin to look at those services that it wishes to export, and then begin to identify, what those markets are in terms of suitability. Again, this office will never try to tell you where or where not to export. We're just going to give you data to make information on. But the services exports, I'd love to have a conversation with you about that. we can have that offline, but that data is there. It is a little bit softer than the goods data, but it's equally insightful. So I hope that begins to answer the question.
Yes, yes, it does. I'll make an appointment with your office.
Oh, that'd be great. I
you.
look forward to and have a couple markets that you'd like to begin building maybe some export plans around. And I think we'll have a really beneficial conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Marissa.
It looks like we have a question in the Q&A. It looks like it is directed to you, Bill, from Radia Funa.
Hello, Radia. How are you? I believe we know each other, do we not?
So let me see if I can unmute.
I got it.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
perfect. Oh, amazing.
Okay. Hi. Hi, Bill. Yes, we do.
Hello, Radia. How are you? It's been way too
Doing
long.
very well. It's been way too long. Yes. Thank you so much for everything you've done with me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's
And
a
thank you
pleasure.
for your time here. This has been great.
Gladly given.
I chased you down from Hudson County. I'm here for you.
That sounds like I'm a fugitive. I'm pretty easy to find. For
So
those that are not part of the Radia and Bill show, we've had some marvelous conversations. Not over the last 6 months, but we've had some really insightful as well as delightful conversations. So go ahead,
we
Radia.
have, and Bill, you have been instrumental in a lot of ways, but I think you're going to be thrilled when you see our new website, because one of the best pieces of advice you gave me after I'd explained everything that we were doing was, is that sitting on your website? And of course, at the time, the answer was absolutely not. And now I can say absolutely yes. All of it is on the website. So I think you're going to be thrilled. Also excited because we are now the world's leading standards-based digital transformation firm.
Oh, come on now. You're just making me want to do flip-flops for you, but kudos for that. But Radia, can you in 1 minute, because we have some other questions, and I promise you and I will talk at length. But
yes, please.
At 1 minute, what did internationalizing your website do to help you in your overall, I can't say it's a starter journey because you had already begun that before we talked, but how did it support your journey? How did it expand your journey, etc.?
In 1 minute, and actually in one word, I would say verifier. It was something I never thought it could be, because I always felt like we were doing so many different things in so many different places, and we had these silos of people understanding what we're doing, maybe even liking what we're doing or loving what we were doing, but we were a secret. And what the website did, what the game changer was that it just became this place where we could verify all of our work and connect the dots. And it's still quite complex if you look at the website, because it takes so many different paths to make the connection. But I've got to say, it is almost without a doubt the reason why we can say we're the leading firm, because people can bring all these bits of ourselves, in a sense, together and frankly point at what it is they want, because that was part of the, especially when you're working internationally. And thanks to you, we realized we were working internationally, because we barely even knew that that's what we were doing.
Fair point.
But
that
now
was
I feel like
that was a good find. That was a really good find.
But now
I'm not gonna lie.
Globally, that's what's happening. People are connecting the dots back to us. So, that I think is the best thing it did for us.
Well, Radia, I promise you we're going to talk after this, but I want to, thank you for sharing your experience. And, again, I've got an ego like everybody else, and we're grateful that you took a moment to talk to us or spoke about us. But the point is, and I'd like to riff off of Radia's comment, that one of the easiest things to do in advance of any company's international trade journey is to make its website look international. And if you're going to go down this path, one of our standard lines here between Sophie and Marielle and Jean and myself is your website will work for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. If somebody finds you from your targeted market, how are they going to find you? I mean, what are they going to see there? And
Uh-oh, I think they'll froze.
use Radia's experience to begin internationalizing your website. So, allow that to be a little bit of an unscripted part of today's presentation. Thanks, Radia.
Bill, can
Yeah.
we ask Radia if she'd share what her website is for us?
Oh, yeah, absolutely fine. Radia, if you're
Radia,
still out there,
would that be okay?
fine by
Sorry,
me.
what was the question?
Would you mind sharing your website with us all?
Oh, not at all. I'll do that now.
We could use you as an example.
Yeah,
Okay.
brilliant.
Will
I
do.
also want to
Thank you.
highlight, and Radia, I'm looking at your website now because I think only the panelists can view the link right now. But if you pop it in the chat, everyone should be able to see. But it looks like you had another question that I do want to make sure that we address regarding. Well, I'm just going to read the question out. What is your advice for export-ready firms accelerating applications when federal shutdowns impact U.S. commercial service support?
Yeah, that's a big question. And what I would say is, from the perspective of working with U.S. and allow a little bit of proper context. U.S. commercial service is the United States government, part of its government websites, to be the front line to help U.S. firms sell goods and services around the world. Worked with them for over a quarter century. These are people who are not only good, but they're good people. I would invite them into my home for Thanksgiving. There, I've said it. But in the absence of a functioning federal government also means U.S. commercial service is not providing its services. And Radia, you're well to point out that kind of service can be or the absence of that kind of service can certainly slow down those firms who are at this particular stage in their journey. To this, I would say a couple of things. I would, at the first point, depending how far you are in your journey, if you're just at the very beginning, continue to gather market analysis, market demographics from other sources. A lot, and Sophie pointed out one, just because the federal government has stopped working, U.S. commercial service and its country commercial guides are still online. So let's pick a country. And let's say, this office has talked about Ghana a lot recently. And so let's say I wanted to get a little bit more information on not necessarily statistical data, but just the culture of Ghana, the business climate of Ghana. What does the United States government view as some of the leading prospects of exports into Ghana? You can go to the U.S. Commercial Services Country Guide. Sophie had that screen up a moment ago, and you can access Ghana. And that will probably be good from, I would say, March or April of this year. And that's a credible source to begin or continue to learn about the business prospects in that country and what it means to conduct business there. Now, let's take it one step further. I would also encourage any company who's looking at Ghana or any other country on the planet to begin communicating with that country's representatives in this country. Almost every country will have a consulate in New York City for a couple of different reasons. Obviously, a large city, proximity to the UN, very, very glamorous. And almost every country has a large part of its diaspora in or around New York City. For those somewhat few countries that don't have that, begin communicating with that country's embassy in Washington, D.C. Flat out put the question in front of them. You're trying to acquire, wrong word, you're trying to get access to business data or conducting business in that country. They should be able to provide some of that information. I would also look for the U.S. fill in the blank for a country name, Chamber of Commerce, that might open itself up for conversation. A lot of times they'll charge you membership fees, but these are another way that you can begin to get information. Whatever industry you're in, see if that industry's national or regional association has international trade data specifically for the country you're looking at. Go to that country's website. Look for information on that website. By and large, not exclusively, but by and large, it's going to be something along the lines of commerce. The United States does not have a monopoly on the word Department of Commerce, so other countries will have that as well. Where you're going to see some discrepancies or stepping away from that is if your product is the individual who left a question early on was talking about FDA Class 1 drugs. That actually, in that, I'm sorry he's not here because I do have some insight. But in that particular case, the targeted country is going to have its own rules for bringing that kind of product in. And a lot of times it's going to be in a health, human services, something like that. A lot of information can still be gotten. So, Radia, to your point, just because the federal government is not providing its share of data, there are other sources that can continue to fill the gap of knowledge and acquiring knowledge. Long-winded answer, I apologize, but that data is still out there, even if the U.S. government is not providing it. Any other questions? Oh, thank you, Sophie. There's the Ghana. And these are examples of, these are resources that this office uses on a, quite frankly, multiple times a day basis. It may not always be Ghana, but this gives an example of the level of detail that without spending a dime, companies who are looking at specific targets can begin to acquire knowledge on those targeted countries. So.
All right, so we can would like to proceed to the following slide at this point. And if anyone has any additional questions that were not able to be addressed at this time, we are available and more than happy to speak with you offline, conduct a separate call. At your convenience. We would also like to thank you all for joining us for today's webinar. And again, thank our wonderful partners at the Bergen County Division of Economic Development. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Lucretia, for their partnership and collaboration on this webinar. We will also be sending out the contact information in our follow-up, as well as a survey to ask you to give us your candid feedback on this on today's webinar, as well as the self-assessment for new to export companies. And of course, we invite you to connect with us all to continue discussions after today. And I would like to pass it over to Joanne and Bill and Lucretia for any additional closing remarks. Thank you.
I'm good. I think you guys covered it all. I know it was a jam-packed hour and we just made it over 10. And I just will say thank you again to all the businesses who are on here today. Please reach out to myself, to Lucretia, to Sophie, to Bill, to take this forward. I hope that this wasn't just the beginning. I hope that this is the start of a much bigger and longer conversation that's only going to help your business. And that's it.
Thanks, Joanne. Thanks,
All right.
Lucretia. Really appreciate it.
Have a good rest of the day, everyone. Bye-bye.